Hello there, and welcome back to Non-Name Talks.
It's great to be here. Okay, so about 5 years back, you might remember, this phrase popped up, self-partnered.
Right, coined by actress Emma Watson.
Exactly. And look, we're not here for celebrity chat, but that term, it really sparked something important, didn't it? A needed conversation about being single.
It absolutely did. It went viral almost instantly, I think because it gave people a different way to talk about being happily single, without that slightly defensive edge that I'm happy single can sometimes have.
Like an apology
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, exactly. So our mission today really is to get past the buzz and dig into what self-partnered actually points to. We'll look at the psychology, the stigma around singlehood, and what research tells us about how people navigate this.
And we should probably start with what she actually meant, right? She clarified it later.
Good point. Yeah, in 2024, she explained it wasn't so much about single versus married. It was more personal.
Like a realization.
Sort of, yeah. Like, oh, maybe I've figured out some things about how to care for myself better, and taking pride in that. That was the core. Self-care, self-reliance, and this is key, building a really strong community around you.
That intentional focus on like building your own support structure, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it also gets right to the heart of why the term was needed in the first place, this bias against single people.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real thing. Academics even have a term for it. Singlism.
Singleism.
Yeah, it's the bias and, frankly, discrimination people face just because they're not partnered. And studies show the general public often sees singles as, well, less attractive, less happy, maybe more immature.
Wow. Really? Still.
Still, and it gets worse, apparently, for people over 40. The assumption seems to be if you're single later in life, there must be something wrong.
That's a pretty harsh judgment. And it's weird because it's not often called out like other biases.
Exactly. It's kind of invisible discrimination, but it can affect things,
Yeah.
housing, work, it's insidious.
So when someone like Watson, or remember Gwyneth Paltrow with conscious uncoupling,
Right.
when they introduce a new term, it's kind of like trying to rebrand it, to manage how people see it.
It's definitely an attempt to shift the narrative, to take a status that society often looks down on and give it a more positive, empowered framing. Language matters.
Yeah, it frames it differently because single, it often sounds temporary, like you're just waiting for someone.
Precisely. It implies you're in a state of lacking something. It buys into the idea that being coupled is the only real goal.
But self-partnered.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds complete content. Like a choice, not a waiting room.
It flips the script, as you said. It suggests a relationship with yourself that's valid and fulfilling on its own terms.
Okay, so that's the idea. But what's really fascinating is that the science seems to be catching up, actually backing this up.
It really is,
Yeah.
especially challenging that core stereotype that fuels singleism, the lonely, isolated single person.
Right, the old cat lady trope or whatever. Let's unpack that because the data you mentioned, it tells a very different story.
It really does. The common idea is couples connect, singles are alone, but big surveys looking at thousands of people,
Yeah.
they actually show the opposite. Single people often have stronger connections to friends, family, their communities. They're more tied in.
Wait, stronger than married people?
Often, yes. It's often the partnered people who tend to narrow their social world after they couple up, become a bit more isolated, ironically.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So if singles are actually more connected, how does that play out psychologically? You mentioned something called psychological attunement.
Yeah, think of it like this. Your self-esteem is kind of like a monitor. It's constantly checking the quality of your important social connections. Am I valued? Am I accepted?
Like an internal sensor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because our culture puts such a huge emphasis on romantic relationships, partnered people's self-esteem tunes into that relationship. Their sensor is mostly focused on their spouse or partner.
Makes sense. So what about single people? Where does their sensor point?
This is the really cool finding from a 2-year study. Single people, they psychologically attune their self-esteem to the quality of their friendships.
Ah, okay. So how well their friendships are going directly impacts how they feel about themselves.
Precisely. The ups and downs in friendship quality predicted the ups and downs in their self-esteem. And crucially, this connection, this attunement to friends was much stronger when they were single compared to when they were partnered.
So their whole system kind of recalibrates to focus on those non-romantic bonds.
That's right. And it's not just psychological. It leads to action. Singles tend to invest more time, more energy, more commitment into maintaining those friendships, Over the study period, their friendship quality stayed stable or even got a bit better.
And partnered people's friendships.
They actually saw, on average, a slight decline in friendship quality over those same 2 years.
Wow.
The researchers suggested it might be due to the all-consuming nature of romantic love. Couples tend to pull back a bit, invest less energy outside the partnership.
So being self-partnered isn't just navel-gazing self-care. It's tied to this deep psychological tendency to build and maintain a really solid support network.
Exactly. It contributes to resilience, to well-being in a very real way.
Okay, so singlehood isn't about lacking something. It's about a different kind of relational focus. But single is still a massive category, right? Everyone's experience must be different.
Oh, absolutely. It's not one size fits all. And researchers have tried to capture that complexity. They've developed a typology, a way of mapping different single profiles.
Based on what?
Two main things. First, what are your romantic relationship goals? Are you actively looking for a partner, just dating casually, or not dating at all?
Okay, partner seeker, casual dater, non-dater.
Right. And the second factor is, how much pressure do you feel to be in a relationship? Is it low, medium, or high?
Got it. So combining those gives you 9 different types of singles.
Exactly, 9 distinct profiles. And looking at these really shows who's thriving and who's struggling.
So who are the happiest singles according to this model?
Well, the happiest groups, the ones with high well-being and low ill-being, like anxiety or depression, they're almost all in those low-pressure categories.
Makes sense.
The biggest group, about 22% of the people they studied, were the happy non-daters.
Tell me about them. Who are they?
They tend to be older, mostly women, actually. Almost 80% were between 45 and 65. They report low desire to partner, high self-esteem, very low anxiety or depression. They're satisfied being single and seem really connected to family.
Interesting. Okay, who else is doing well?
The second main group are the happy explorers. These are the low-pressure casual daters, about 8% of the sample.
Okay.
They also skew a bit older, but more likely to be male. They report high well-being, high self-esteem, and feel socially fulfilled, especially, again, with friendships, which fits perfectly with that attunement idea we talked about. And they're often more romantically adventurous, maybe tried polyamory, friends with benefits, that kind of thing.
So both these happy groups feel low pressure. What else do they have in common?
Something really interesting. Both groups score high on preference for solitude. They genuinely enjoy spending time alone, but crucially, for them, it's a source of strength, not distress. It doesn't lead to loneliness or negative feelings.
That really paints a picture of confident independence, especially later in life.
It does.
But then let's flip it. Who's having the hardest time? It sounds like pressure is the key factor.
Pressure is absolutely the destructive element here. If you look at the group with the lowest overall well-being, it's the distressed non-daters.
High pressure, but not dating.
Exactly. It's a small group, only 1.5%, but they report high anxiety, depression, loneliness, low social support. They tend to be younger and more often female. They're not dating, but they feel this intense societal obligation to find a partner, and it's clearly causing a lot of distress.
That sounds really tough. And there was another stress group you mentioned, the explorers.
Ah, yes, the stressed explorers. This group is really fascinating, kind of paradoxical. They're high-pressure casual daters, about 7% of the sample.
Okay.
They report high life satisfaction,
High satisfaction. But
but also high ill-being, like chronic stress, anxiety, neuroticism. They tend to be younger and more often male.
wait, high satisfaction and high stress. How does that work?
It's confusing, right? The
Yeah.
researchers think it might reflect a kind of high risk, high reward lifestyle. Maybe they get immediate satisfaction or excitement from casual dating, the exploration.
Okay, the thrill of it.
Yeah, but the underlying pressure, maybe internal conflict or external judgment about not settling down, is taking a constant toll on their mental health. So momentary highs, but underlying chronic stress.
That makes a strange kind of sense, like burning the candle at both ends socially.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
They haven't quite squared their lifestyle with the pressure they feel.
So looking across all 9 types, are there clear patterns? You mentioned age and gender.
Definitely. The gender split is quite striking. Non-daters across all pressure levels were overwhelmingly female, like 67-71%.
Really?
Yeah. And casual daters were overwhelmingly male, 53-57%. And age, It's strongly linked to pressure. Older singles, 45 to 65, were much more likely to be in those low-pressure, thriving groups like the happy non-daters.
And younger singles.
Younger singles, 18 to 24, were disproportionately found in the high-pressure groups. They seem to feel that societal expectation much more acutely.
Wow. So this whole deep dive, it really shifts the perspective on singlehood, doesn't it?
Massively.
It's not just one thing, it's diverse.
Yeah.
And happiness seems less about finding a partner and more about, well, attuning to friendships and not feeling crushed by external pressure.
That's the core takeaway, I think, and it's relevant for everyone, partnered or not, to understand this. That stereotype of lonely, later life singlehood. The data suggests the opposite is often true. For many, it's a time of thriving.
And the real struggle is often felt by younger people navigating all that pressure.
Exactly. They're the ones often caught between their own path and what they think society expects.
Which brings us back, actually, to that idea of investment. You said singles are like high-stakes investors in their friendships out of psychological necessity. They're the sole owners of their relational portfolio.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor. They bear the full responsibility for cultivating those connections.
Okay, so let's push that metaphor, maybe borrowing from, like, business. A partnership shares risk, right?
Yeah.
Shared liability.
Mm-hmm.
But a sole proprietorship that's the single owner gets its strength from control, self-reliance. Being self-partnered sounds like being the CEO of your own relational life.
The CEO with unlimited liability, perhaps? You own the successes and the failures.
Right. So here's something to think about for you listening. If you embrace being self-partnered like that sole proprietor, how do you make sure your business, your relational life is sustainable?
Good question.
What are the specific, maybe like governance rules you need to set up for yourself? How do you protect that crucial investment in your friendships, those connections your well-being is attuned to? Especially if maybe a romantic partnership does come along later. What systems, what boundaries do you put in place now to make sure that new relationship doesn't accidentally bankrupt your primary self-attuned investments? That seems like the real work of taking pride in being self-partnered.